Hey there! So today's video is something a little different from what I've done before. Today I'll be talking about the IB and what I wish I knew about the IB before I started it. I hope that by sharing my tips from my experience in IB, I can help you, who is most likely a prospective or current IB student, gain a clearer picture of what to expect in this course. So I graduated in November 2018, and that is still fairly recent, so I'm not too old yet, but my batch was the last for several syllabus such as geography. Moving on to that, my higher levels were geography, English Lit, and biology, while my standard levels were Chinese, maths, and art. And if you're wondering why my subjects are specifically in cool or warm tones, there is a reason for that. Embarrassingly enough, I struggled with my SLs more than I did with my HLs, because for my HLs I picked subjects which I genuinely do enjoy and was decently good at, which is important because I feel that the sheer amount of content the higher level subjects have, that it will eventually become your nightmare regardless of how much you enjoy it. So by choosing something that you can reliably do well in and enjoy, it will lessen the pain of those subjects overall. So that brings me to my standard level subjects. So I'm sure with like most people, standard level subjects are the subjects that you kind of not really want to do, but you kind of have to do at the same time because of the compulsory subjects. So out of my 3 standard level subjects, the only subject that I really picked to do was art. I'm not mathematically inclined and I don't speak Chinese at home. The only time I use Chinese is when I'm doing my exam. And the reason why I stuck with this standard level combination, even though I found it very hard, it was because I was not too sure on what I wanted to do in university. And it's very important to check the requirements of the university, because I know for my cohort, math studies was still available. I know it's not going to be available in a couple of years' time, but some universities do not take math studies for certain courses. I have broken down today's video into 5 general tips, with the first tip being doing well in your objective subjects. And what are objective subjects, you may ask? Well, it's your subjects such as maths, science, and humanities, the subject where you know that you either got it right or you got it wrong, and there's no arguments against it. Humanities are to a certain extent because the short answer questions are objective, whereas the essay-based questions, usually in part B, are usually more subjective, so that's more of a 50-50. If you think about it, that's about half of your subjects that you could potentially do well in and will not be subjected to the marker's discretion. If you think about it, if you can get 6s in all those subjects, that means you're guaranteed 18 points, and if you can get 766, that's 19 points, and that's such a good security to have because you really don't know what's going on with your subjective subjects. So it is entirely upon the examiner's interpretation of your work. Whereas for your objective subject, it's all about the practice. Do as much past year paper as you can do, and for the exam, you'll be quite comfortable in answering the questions. And this was a very bad mistake that I really regretted doing in my IB, because I did both SL Art and SL Maths, and I didn't really like Maths, so I decided to spend more time in my art. And although I was really proud at how my art pieces turned out and I really enjoyed the subject, my Maths didn't feel so good, and it really reflected in my final score. Now for tip 2, read through your syllabus. Gone are the days where you can cram in all your facts at the very last minute. Now in the IB, they actually want you to understand what you're learning. This can be seen through the use of command terms they frequently use. They like to use analyze and explain, which means they want you to be able to explain what's going on and see your train of thought. They want to see your point, your evidence, and your analysis of those 2 above. They want to see that you actually do understand what you're learning as opposed to just memorizing. Which brings me to tip 3. Due to the sheer amount of content in the IB, there are bound to be something that you do not understand, and when you do encounter that, please ask for help. It could be from a teacher, a tutor, or even a fellow student. The reason I say that is because in both year 1 and year 2, you're going to be very stressed. Therefore, asking for help when you need it prevents a build-up of the stress, allowing you to focus your energy and time into other areas of the IB. And this leads to tip 4. The IB is a curriculum which rewards consistent studying. I'm sure we've all met those schoolmates where the only 2 times they put in work into their studying is during the mocks and the finals. However, in the IB, this kind of inconsistent studying will really be detrimental towards your grade in the final exam. And I say this because of 2 things. The first one being the massive amount of content you have to learn in 2 or sometimes less than 2 years, and the command terms they like to use. They like to ask, analyze, and explain questions as we have discussed earlier, meaning you actually have to understand and practice what you have learned on past year papers. And with each topic having their own subtopic and their own subtopic, I don't think it's humanly possible to be able to cram in 2 years worth of content into 1 week of studying. So the first 4 tips just generally cover a very small amount of studying tips for the exam. Now tip 5 is going to be about the IA, CAS, and EE, the coursework aspect of the IB. So I'll first talk about what I like to call the cushion for your grades, the IA. The IA stands for internal assessments, and which you guess is internally assessed by your teachers and moderated by the IB. The IA may come under different names in different subjects, but it all consists of 1/5 of your final grade within a subject, or 20% of your final grade that you can have somewhat of a control over. And although 1/5 doesn't seem like a lot when you first see it, it actually can make a very big difference between going up a grade boundary or going down a grade boundary. So next is CAS. I would advise you finish CAS in year 1 when you actually have more time and don't really have to do the IAs or the EE yet. And it will be a very unpleasant experience if you failed the diploma because of CAS. So CAS is dependent upon meeting 8 learning objectives, which are listed here, which I have taken off straight from the IBO website. And you just have to meet all 8. You don't have to have an equal amount of all 8 appearing, and all your reflections, which will show that you have met the requirements, have to be reflective and show what you learned rather than just what you did. So all your reflections and evidence regarding your activity will be uploaded into this lovely website known as ManageBag. Speaking of ManageBag, let's go over the EE and TOK briefly. Both together consist of 3 points of your final score. Since TOK is such an extensive topic, I maybe might release a more in-depth video regarding that subject as opposed to mentioning it in here. So back to the EE. I like to break down the meaning of the extended essay into something that's easier to understand. Therefore, I concluded that it can be said it is a structured argument proving a point, and the point being your essay question. Therefore, it is important to check out what the marking rubric for your specific subject is looking for, because each subject is very different. Since extended essay in its name indicates that it wants a structured argument, the issue of pictures is that it's good to illustrate points, but it shouldn't be what your extended essay is consisting of. The meat of the essay, what the examiners are really looking for, is going to be analysis and evaluation. They are looking to see what I've learned regarding the subject area of study and the knowledge of being able to differentiate between reliable, credible sources and not as reliable sources, and why. So 3 very basic things with the EE is that do a question in a subject area you're really interested in. Use academic papers if possible for your sources, because they are the most credible sources available out there for students. And make sure you converse with your supervisor, because that also is some marks that you can get. Like, I'm not even kidding, it's right there. It's engagement, and you get to do 3 reflections, and they all get uploaded to ManageBag, and your supervisor will be the judge of how well engaged they think you are. In summary, this is just a very brief video covering the whole journey I had within the IB. And within the IB, I wouldn't say that I was a particularly excellent student. In fact, I was quite average at best. In fact, my final IB score was the average of my year group. I did have subjects which I did very well in, like geography, but I have subjects which I completely bombed and it was like a volcano eruption, like maths. So today's video was based more upon the academic aspect of the IB. If you want me to go over more like balancing, studying, and co-curricular activities, I can make that video too, and I can make specific subject guides or advice for the subjects I did, except maths, because if you want my advice for maths, it's as useful as butter is to a bunch of bees. And if there's anything within this video that you want me to cover more in depth, I can definitely do that as well. So some final words: stay calm during the exams, don't procrastinate. Really, don't procrastinate in the IB. It makes things so much easier if you don't, and a lot more enjoyable. And enjoy the ride. You will learn a lot about yourself during this time, and you will learn a lot of skills that will be very useful to you in the future. So all the best, and I'll see you next time.